Riley is 9 years old, cross-legged on the floor in front of a TV that isn't smart and doesn't need to be. There's a game in the console, one Riley saved up for, bought once, and now owns completely. No updates to install, no season pass, no ads between lives, just a whole world waiting. Upstairs, a shoebox of burned CDs and an iPod with 1,000 songs that are Riley's forever. None of it feels special. It's just how things are. Riley has no idea they're living in the last good years. Now Riley is 26, and something feels wrong all the time. The phone buzzes. A subscription auto-renewed. The car wants $9 a month to keep using a feature it already has. A show Riley was halfway through just vanished from the app they pay for. Every month, a dozen tiny charges bleed out of the account for things Riley barely remembers signing up for. It isn't that Riley is broke exactly, it's the feeling underneath it, the sense of being slowly, quietly drained, charged just for existing. Like life itself has become something you rent, and the rent never stops climbing. If you're under 30, you know that feeling in your bones. And you've been told it's just nostalgia, that you're romanticizing the past. You are not. The things you loved were real, and they were taken from you deliberately, one paywall at a time. This is the story of how it happened, told through the people it is quietly draining, and a list of exactly who is holding the straw. It traces back to a single idea. In 1970, the economist Milton Friedman declared that a company has exactly one job: to make as much money as humanly possible for its shareholders. Not good products, not loyal customers, just more, every quarter, forever. A CEO named Jack Welch turned that idea into a religion. Gut the company, pump the stock, repeat. And once extract more, always, becomes the only rule. Everything you love becomes a thing to be drained. The writer, Cory Doctorow, gave the result a name: enshittification. Something made wonderful to hook you, then slowly squeezed for every last cent once you can't leave. Watch it drain four corners of your life. Start where Riley started, games. But picture a kid today, call him Leo, 11 years old. All of Leo's friends play the same game. It's free, which is the trick, because the game is built so the kids who pay get the best skins, the better gear, the wins, and the kids who don't are left feeling invisible. Leo isn't paying for fun anymore. He's paying not to feel left behind, on a playground that now lives inside an app. The game was never the product. Leo's loneliness is. The company that perfected this was Electronic Arts, and its weapon is the loot box, a digital mystery box. It's pay real money to open, praying for something good inside. It is gambling aimed at children in a clown costume, and when the British government hauled EA in to answer for it, their executive refused to even say the words loot box. She called them surprise mechanics, and swore they were actually quite ethical and quite fun. This is the same EA that spent years buying up the studios you loved, the makers of Command & Conquer, of Sim City, and hollowing them out one by one. Gamers know the pattern by heart. EA buys what you love, and then it dies. Then there's Activision Blizzard, under CEO Bobby Kotick, which did something genuinely sinister. It patented a system to manipulate you, matchmaking, that quietly stacks you against better players, so you feel like you have to buy an upgrade just to keep up. Sit with that. They didn't only add things to buy, they engineered the need to buy them, and across the industry, studios hired the very same behavioral psychologists casinos use to build compulsion loops into games made for children. The fun stopped being the point. The fun was just the bait on the hook. And when a beloved thing won't squeeze fast enough, they simply kill it. Konami once made Silent Hill and Metal Gear, genuine masterpieces. Then it decided real games were too slow and too expensive, pushed out its own legendary creators, and began converting its catalog into pachinko machines, actual gambling devices. An entire artistic legacy melted down into a slot machine. That is the logic in its purest, coldest form. A thing millions of people love is worth less to them than the money they can squeeze by destroying it. Now, music. Riley's iPod held 1,000 songs that were his, bought, ripped, kept, a collection no one could ever reach in and take back. Then streaming arrived like pure magic, every song ever recorded for $10 a month. But read the fine print on that magic. You do not own one of those songs. You are renting access. Miss a payment, and your entire library vanishes in a single heartbeat like it was never there. Because it never was. And the people who make the music get drained worst of all. Meet Danny, a real kind of artist, a song with millions of streams and a day job she still can't afford to quit because Spotify, run by billionaire Daniel Ek, pays her around 0.3 of a single cent per stream. Her song has to be played hundreds of times just to earn $1. When artists like Danny said they couldn't survive on that, each response was that they could no longer expect to record one album every few years. They simply had to keep churning out new music constantly, make more, for less, forever. And while Danny scrapes by, the platform got caught quietly stuffing its biggest playlists with cheap, in-house ghost artists, so it can pocket your $10 without paying a Danny at all. Fine, you think, I'll just go see the music live, in a room with other humans, but even that is a toll booth now. Live Nation and its arm, Ticketmaster, own the venues, the tickets, and the resale all at once, a monopoly with its hand in every pocket. The convenience fees can swallow 1/3 of the price. When demand spikes, the price spikes automatically in real time. A whole generation watched the system break the night. Millions tried to buy Taylor Swift tickets and got crushed by it. The government is now suing to break the company up. Even joy, in a crowd, has a meter running. Now the things in your hands and your home, the ones you paid full price for and still do not actually own. Because somewhere along the line, buying a product quietly became renting a service that happens to be made of metal and glass. Meet Walt. Walt farms the way his father did, with one cruel difference. His $100,000 John Deere tractor has a computer inside that locks him out of it. When it breaks down, at harvest, when every single hour counts, Walt is not allowed to repair his own machine. The software forbids it. He has to wait, sometimes for days, on an authorized dealer, while the crop he spent a whole year growing sits rotting in the field. Walt owns the tractor. John Deere owns whether it's allowed to run. That isn't maintenance, that's a hostage. And it's everywhere now. BMW tried to charge you $18 a month to switch on heated seats already sitting in your car. HP builds printers that reject cheaper ink because its CEO decided printing should be a subscription and openly called customers who don't sign up a bad investment. Apple fought for years to stop you fixing your own phone, secretly pairing parts to each device so a screen from anywhere but Apple simply refuses to work. Every one of these is the same tiny theft of the same tiny freedom, the right to fully own the thing you already bought. And it compounds. Adobe killed the ability to buy its software outright, stop paying the monthly fee, and the tools you built a career on simply stop opening. Sonos reached into speakers people already owned and bricked them on purpose. Tesla sells you a car, then software locks the range and features you paid for and switches them off the moment you resell it. And your smart TV is cheap because it isn't really a TV. It's a surveillance device that plays movies, watching what you watch and selling it. Some makers now earn more from your data than the set itself. Your car sells how you drive to insurers, who quietly raise your rates. You did not buy a product. You became one. And then there's the place you actually grew up, the internet itself. It used to feel like a frontier, a strange, wonderful commons you could wander through, full of strangers building things for no reason but love. Riley remembers it, you remember it, and you have watched it get slowly paved over into one endless, surveilled shopping mall where everything is an ad, And more, the ad is you. Start with simply finding anything. Google search, once a clean window onto the whole web, is now choked with ads, search, spam, and AI-generated sludge because a worse search that shows you more ads makes the company more money. A court has now ruled its ad empire an illegal monopoly. Amazon did the exact same thing to shopping. The results are buried under sponsored junk and counterfeits, so the product you actually want sits beneath whoever paid to outrank it. Even the simple act of looking for something has been turned into a toll road. Then the feeds. Facebook and Instagram, run by Mark Zuckerberg, quietly swapped showing you your friends for showing you whatever keeps you scrolling, anxious, and watching ads. Their own leaked internal research admitted the apps made teenage girls feel worse about their own bodies, and they shipped it anyway. You are not the customer of these apps. You are the crop. Your attention, your insecurity, your hours, harvested and sold by the pound. That low, restless emptiness you feel after an hour of scrolling, that isn't a side effect. That is the product, working exactly as designed. Even watching a show became a maze. The streaming apps promised to free you from cable, then quietly turned into cable, only worse. 6 subscriptions to watch what one used to cover, prices climbing, ads creeping back in, and shows you love deleted overnight because a finished series is worth more to them as a tax write-off than as something you're allowed to watch. And the communities you built? When Reddit and Twitter decided it was time to squeeze, they killed the beloved apps people made for them overnight with a single policy change. Nothing you build on their land was ever really yours. So why is every bit of this legal? Because they wrote the laws to make it legal. In 1998, Congress passed the DMCA, and buried inside it is a rule that makes it a federal crime to break the digital locks on things you own. That single rule is the entire legal backbone of "you don't own it." On top of it, 40 years of gutted antitrust law, an idea championed by a man named Robert Bork. Let these giants swallow every competitor until you had nowhere else to go. And every time a state tries to pass a right to repair law, the same companies pour in millions to strangle it in the crib. This was never the free market. It is a market that was captured, locked, and handed to the people holding the straw. And it isn't only tech. The whole economy now runs the same play. It's called private equity. Firms that buy a beloved company, bury it in debt, strip it for parts, and walk away rich from the wreckage. They did it to Toys R Us, to Red Lobster, to your local newspaper, your local hospital, the apartment you rent. The very same logic that turned your games into slot machines and your music into a rental is now eating everything. A thing people love is just an asset to be drained until there is nothing left. You are not imagining the hollowing out of the world. It is a business model, and it has a name. Which is exactly why your whole generation is reaching backward. The vinyl now outselling CDs, the dumb phones, the cracked old games, the endless aching videos about how the internet used to feel. People roll their eyes and call it nostalgia. It isn't. You cannot be nostalgic for a world you barely got to live in. What you are feeling is grief. The specific, exhausting ache of watching something real and good get strip-mined for parts while you were still a kid, and being charged for the privilege of watching it go. You're not mourning the past, you're mourning what they took. But here is the part they would much rather you not sit with. It is starting to crack. Right to repair laws are now passing in state after state, real ones with teeth, handing Walt back the right to fix his own tractor. Other countries have outright banned the loot boxes aimed at Leo. Regulators are finally circling the streaming casinos, the impossible to cancel subscriptions, the ticket monopoly. Every one of these fights is winnable, and every single one of them quietly terrifies the people on this list. Because their entire empire runs on you believing nothing can ever change. And here is the idea none of them will ever say out loud. Right now, The law protects the squeeze. We even tax you for the privilege of subscribing, but we never once tax them for trapping you. So flip it. Picture a tax that climbs the more a company turns one-time ownership into a permanent toll that punishes renting you what you used to be able to simply buy. Suddenly, nickel and diming Walt for his own tractor, or you for your heated seats, stops being free money. Make the draining unprofitable, and it stops on its own. That is not a fantasy, it's just a choice we haven't made yet. Riley still feels it. The pull of the subscription, the nag of the monthly fee, the quiet drain of a life that seems rented instead of owned. But Riley finally figured out the one thing they were never supposed to figure out. That feeling was never a personal failure. It was a business model. The things you loved did not die of natural causes. They were killed for a number on a spreadsheet by people with names. So buy the vinyl, keep the old console, own your files, back the repair laws. Refuse the subscription. Not because it's nostalgic, but because every single time you choose to truly own something, you do the one thing they spent billions trying to make impossible. You remember that your life was yours, and you start taking it back.